And next up at UFC Macau, we've got Rei Tsuruya taking on Luis Gurule. Gurule obviously stepping in here for Jesus Aguilar on somewhat short notice, coming off of his first UFC victory recently. And obviously stepping in, making another weight cut has me a little bit worried, but he does have an overall good skill set here, I think, against Tsuruya that can definitely get him the victory here. I think he's the better striker. He does have a wrestling base. That's where his overall skill set comes from. And I think if he can keep this one standing, he's going to be the better overall striker. I just worry about the cardio and the conditioning and obviously back-to-back weight cuts. Tsuruya, obviously 1-1 inside the UFC octagon. And, in his last performance, there's no shame in losing to the current champion, Joshua Van. He pretty much uses mostly wrestling. He's not necessarily going to stand and strike with you. He's pretty much, take down or bust. If he can't get the fight to the ground, he tends to struggle. But once it does hit the mat, he's a very credentialed, grappler, very good at locking in the body triangle. He attempted a twister in his UFC debut, wasn't able to get it. But I just think here that if Gurule can keep this one on the feet, he's going to be the much better striker. It's just going to depend on the cardio and the gas tank. But give me Luis Gurule here. I just don't trust Tsuruya. I think Tsuruya is pretty much the same as Almarim. If Almarim can't get the takedown, she's dead. She's dead to rights on the feet. I think it's the same here with Tsuruya. If he can't get the fight to the ground with a lot of UFC fighters, obviously 23 years old, not a ton of experience in the striking, he's going to struggle. And if he can't get the takedown here against Gurule, who's a guy that obviously, as I said, has got some wrestling chops of his own, he's going to be, getting beaten up pillar to post. And at the end of the day, this sport is designed to be scored on damage. So give me Luis Gurule here to keep this one on the feet. Hopefully his conditioning is there. Hopefully the weight cut doesn't bother him too much. But if he can keep this one standing, he should be the better striker overall. He's got a nice step-in elbow. He's got good pressure on the feet. He's got a great jab to fight behind as well. He just needs to mind his P's and Q's with the level changes, keep the kicks to a minimum, keep this one standing, and ultimately he should be able to win with the striking. Give me Luis Gurule to get this one done. Let's see who Carlos has got in this one.
Okay, in this one, I'm going to take Gurule to get it done. I just feel that if he can fight the same way he did against Barres in his last fight, he came with heavy pressure. He can hit hard, but he doesn't have that big, heavy power, one-and-done kind of striker. So if he can press his opponent, throw punches and bunches, land, force him to back up, get him up against the cage, start inflicting some punishment on the ground, Gurule could always have success. That was kind of his thing, is he had low output and he had a lot more trust in his punching power, and maybe in the regional scene it got him somewhere. But once he got to the UFC, you can see the guys can take shots a little bit better. They're a little bit tougher. But I do feel that he's going to be the better wrestler of the two. I think that Tsuruya is probably the more decorated wrestler. He's got a little bit more credentials, but I believe Gurule, or anytime someone has a Greco-Roman background, they're going to have a hard time being kept down. They're going to have strong hips. They're going to have a strong back. They're going to have good flexibility. And Tsuruya, he can scramble. And he's going to get to better positions, but I feel Gurule is just going to overpower him in those positions and probably get back to his feet or end up in better top control. One of the things that is kind of bothering me in taking Gurule in this one is the fact that this is a quick turnaround. I mean, he didn't take a lot of damage in that fight against Barres. He actually inflicted a little bit more damage, but you did have to cut weight. And for that weight class, he's a thick guy. He's got muscle. He's got a thick chest, thick back, and he's got big muscular legs. And I just feel that the pressure that Tsuruya puts in, he scrambles a lot, gets in a lot of scrambling exchanges, able to keep moving. And he's not really a striking threat, but just being busy and always chaining those wrestling combinations of takedowns and takedowns and takedowns. Is that going to be a little bit too taxing for Gurule, having to cut weight twice? I'm going to say that the stand-up from Gurule is going to be a little bit too punishing for Tsuruya, and I think that on the ground he's probably going to end up in better position. So Gurule to get this one done.